This movie is long. I mean, long. I mean, you might need a pea cup long. Like, it's mother effing long. Golly, this movie is long. But that's okay because I still enjoyed myself extensionally. What's up, y'all? MarjX79 here. We are back again today to talk about the Batman, the newest iteration of the Cape Crusader fortitude into the silver screen. Does it live up to the hype? Let's dive in. So, first things first, does Rob Pattinson's Batman Bruce Wayne live up to the hype? The short answer is yes. He definitely did his homework. This is a year 2 Batman, so he's still relatively young. He is still trying to figure out his place in Gotham and the best methods to utilize the Batman to help the citizens of Gotham City. Does he just go after your low-level criminals to a night-to-night basis, or does he compile his knowledge and his detective skills to go after the big kingpins to take out the heads of the organized crime? And this iteration of Batman really has to utilize his detective skills to try to take down what is happening in the city. And it was a really magical thing to witness. I'm not gonna lie, I had my doubts going in. The trailers got me pumped up, but after what I've seen in some of the Snyderverse films like Batman v Superman, the original Justice League, of course I loved Justice League, the Snyder cut. I was thinking that there was just going to be just another beat 'em up. He wasn't going to really use his brain. That it was not the case here at all. I would say 80% of the movie was him trying to figure out the Riddler's schemes and plots, why he was killing people, how he was doing it, and how he would be able to utilize his mind to be able to stop the Riddler, because obviously we all know that the Riddler is not a prized fighter. He utilizes his genius level intellect to outsmart his opponents to take them out. Now, some of the biggest gripes that I've scoured across the internet and social media is it's too long, which I definitely agree with that. This was a long movie, and it's going to take a very hardcore Batman fan or just superhero movie fan in general to get the most out of the 3-hour experience. Another major gripe I've been seeing is people are saying that Rob Pattinson is not an accurate Bruce Wayne or Batman. I would disagree with that completely and recommend that every single one of you pick up a comic book. As you're seeing in this panel right here, this fool looks just like Bruce Wayne in some of the classic comic books. This is Batman from year 2. So he is not the playboy Bruce Wayne that we all know and love from Batman's later years, when he fully accepted that he needed to portray the Bruce Wayne role to take away from the possibility of him being Batman. And he still needed to lead Wayne Enterprises to be able to fund the necessary missions to be Batman as well. This is showcased here geniusly to make people realize that when he first started as Batman, that's all he wanted to do. That's all he wanted to be. This was the point. It took the tutelage of Alfred and other characters to show him that there was more to the life of just being the vigilante. He needed to have the two sides of the same coin to be able to utilize Batman most effectively. And that was beautifully told and beautifully edited and beautifully realized on the screen. Now, am I ready to say that Rob Pattinson's portrayal of Bruce Wayne Batman is the greatest Batman of all time? No, absolutely not. I'm sure everybody has their own personal favorite, but for me personally, Kevin Conroy's voice in Batman the Animated Series, the Batman Arkham video game series, Justice League will always be my personal choice for my favorite iteration of Batman. That's how I was introduced to the character. That's what I grew up with. That's what I've always identified with personally with Batman. So that will always be personally my favorite Batman, animated or not. But when it comes to live action, I still kind of prefer Christian Bale's performance as Bruce Wayne a bit more, because The Dark Knight is still my favorite Batman film. That's not taking anything away from Rob Pattinson's performance as Bruce Wayne. I thought it was great, but it's just not my favorite. And that takes us to Zoe Kravitz' portrayal of Selena Kyle, Catwoman. Zoe is a beautiful woman. Let's just start there. Let's just get that out of the way. There is no moment throughout this entire 3 hour movie when she was on screen or had any line of dialogue. Even when Batman himself was on screen, whenever she was on screen, my eyes were fixated on her face and on her movements. It's a beautiful thing to look at. Now, in saying all that, I also, of course, have to say that she played her supporting role perfectly. She gave Batman the needed motivation to see a human side to being Batman. She was never a damsel in distress. I definitely find myself hating when women are portrayed as damsels in distresses in superhero movies nowadays. I feel like we have really gotten away from that. It is no different here. She stood on her own 2 feet, even though Catwoman has never been a character that has really needed Batman's help drastically, but it was just a beautiful thing to witness her being very independent and not needing his help with a lot of her own personal missions of saving her friend and avenging her friend eventually. It was just great. Her partnership and mission structures with Batman was cool. Her fight choreography, her scenes were cool. It was just cool, man. Like, I'm still not a fan of that toboggan that she wears, but it was a homemade, cheap-made suit that she uses to get the missions done. And obviously, it is explained that she is not rich, that she is kind of in her beginning stages of becoming the famous jewel thief Catwoman. And then that takes us to the Riddler. So with him, I'm going to start with, did I like him better than Heath Ledger's Joker? No. Did I like him better than The Dark Knight Rises Bane? No. Did I like him better than Batman Arkham Knight? Red Hood? No, not even close. Now, is that to say that he was a bad villain? No, I enjoyed his performance. I enjoyed this version of the Riddler. I think the problem that we run into is that there's just such a genius level class of Batman villains to choose from. It's just Riddler has never been my favorite character. He's just always been one of those, all right, whatever. He does Riddlers, cool. But, what they did here was all right. Definitely not the best. I kind of found him annoying from time to time. They were trying to get him to be creepy. He was more weird than creepy. And then when the reveal came out, I found him annoying, and not in a good way. But I digress. I feel like the director wanted him to seem annoying because, in iterations of the Joker could probably be found as annoying as well, but he was also entertaining, funny, almost kind of a cynical charming in a sense, where this Riddler was just weird, awkward, and just nuts. But in saying all of that, he served his purpose in the plot of the storyline to push Batman to develop his detective skills and make him realize that there is more to fighting crime than just bashing in skulls every night after night. You have to become the world's greatest detective to truly become the Batman. And that takes us to the next villain that I want to talk about, which is Cobblepot, the classic Penguin Rogues Gallery character. I definitely enjoyed this version of the Penguin more so than I enjoyed the Riddler. I feel like Colin Farrell did the character justice. It's amazing what they were able to do with the makeup and the costume design. He looks nothing like Colin Farrell. Honestly, when I first saw the trailer, I didn't even realize that it was him. So when it comes to how the Penguin was portrayed in this film, he was another character that made Batman have to use his intellect and his detective skills to be able to figure out the crime, because obviously Cobblepot is not directly a ground level street thug who is committing the crime right in front of people's faces. He is more in the background. He is more that central, leader of an organization who gives the directions. And if they get caught up, then he disappears into the wind and just continues to go and doesn't get caught. And it's up to Batman and Jim Gordon to figure out how to pin the crimes against the Penguin and the other mobsters, which is really beautiful to see on screen. Speaking of Jim Gordon, this is not my favorite favorite version of Jim Gordon. I think The Dark Knight. Gary Oldman will always be my favorite Jim Gordon to screen, but this version still did good in my opinion. I really didn't have an issue with him at all. He's kind of was more like a bro Jim Gordon, like a hey man, you can't just go in here just pushing people and smacking cops around. That's not cool. You can't do that. So I really like that aspect of his character. But again, not my favorite, but I was happy to see such a different, version of Jim Gordon on screen. I definitely enjoyed it. And then that takes us to Andy Serkis' Alfred. Now, my favorite part about this version of Alfred is I feel like this is the first one that kind of shows that he is more than Bruce's surrogate dad. Like he had a different relationship with Thomas and Martha Wayne than just being their butler. He was also their protector, their server, their advisor. He wasn't just a servant. And he kind of provides that same, friendship and partnership with Bruce, where in other iterations of Batman's Alfred Pennyworth, he was just strictly a servant and a surrogate father after Thomas and Martha were killed. So it was really cool to see that partnership of where Alfred still clearly cares about Bruce and what he's trying to do to help Bruce, process the grief of his parents' death and fulfilling his role as Batman. But if I had to be completely honest, I would say Jeremy Irons and Michael Caine from Batman v Superman and The Dark Knight, respectively, are still my favorite on-screen versions of Alfred. Even though I still do not like Batman v Superman, that version of Alfred was so awesome that it's just tough to be ignored. So now let's talk about the Batmobile. Those are my favorite? No. I think the Tumbler and the long Batmobile from the animated series Deep Down are still my favorite two iterations of the Batmobile. This car is cool. Had a really cool chase scene with the Penguin. Nothing really in there that made me think it would be very memorable. I mean, the chase scene in The Dark Knight and like him testing it out in the underground bunker and him racing Rachel through the city to get her to safety. Then even seeing it explode and turning into the Batpod. Just those scenes in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. I mean, it doesn't even come close to touching what they had gone on with the vehicles from that movie compared to this movie. And then even the Batpod itself, cool, had some cool ride-along scenes with Catwoman near the end of the movie that had me like, okay, this is sweet, whatever. Nice romantic ride along on your cycles for the end of the movie. Cool, I can dig it, but it just wasn't enough for me to make me think that this was the best versions. And then, of course, don't even get me started on the Arkham Knight from the video game versions of the Batmobile. I think that's probably the top version of the vehicle of what I've ever seen. Now, to bring the focus back around to Batman himself, let's talk about his suit a little bit. Did I think the suit was amazing? Yeah, man, it's cool. Is it my favorite Batsuit? No. The Dark Knight Batman Begins suit, still my favorite on-screen movie suits, if I'm being completely honest. There's something about that cowl, the neck portion of it, just had me like, all right, not my favorite though. The functionality of it is cool. I don't think I've seen a Batman take as many bullets as he did, so that's sweet. That's some serious bulletproof Kevlar armor that he's got going on there. I mean, he was taking shotgun blasts and still sort of getting up afterwards. I mean, that's crazy. Now, the Batman symbol itself, again, cool, but also, again, I prefer the kind of more hard square version of the Batman Begins symbol and the more classic black and yellow symbol more so than the bat symbol that we get here. Now, I know that's a little bit nitpicky, but I feel like the symbol is a very important aspect as Batman as well, and I feel like that we should discuss it. That's what we're doing right now. I just prefer those other versions more. Now, let's talk about the gadgets that were used in the film. His grappling hook, very well utilized utilized. Definitely by far my favorite aspect of this version of the Batman suit and the gadgets. He also had a flare that he used to save people from drowning. That was cool. He also had some adrenaline that he used when he got shotgun blasted to the chest. That was sweet. But aside from all of the gadgets, like stated before, my favorite tool of Batman that was utilized in this film was his intellect, his mind, to figure out the riddles, to figure out the overall scheme of the mob crime bosses and the Riddler. It was so cool to see. And that's what makes this Batman film so freaking good. Now, I can see why all the noobs and the Hollywood blockbuster buffs would have an issue with this film. I mean, it was slow build up. It was kind of took a lot of time to build up the story and the character development at times, and there were not a whole lot of fights in this movie either. You know, you had to take your time to get to know the characters and to understand the motivations of why they're doing exactly what they're doing. This is not the movie for you if you're looking for a ton of explosions. This is a pure Gotham City style, ground level Batman comic book tale from start to finish. It's about Batman, it's about Catwoman, it's about the Riddler, it's about Jim Gordon. There are no aliens, there are no demons, there is no Superman, there's no mention of the Justice League. This is pure Batman at its fullest, and that is why this movie is so great. If you want to see the big spectacle fights, then go back to Marvel, then go back to Justice League. Those movies are for you. But if you've been a fan and you know the comic book Batman like the back of your hand, you know that this is a more detailed Batman story unlike anything we've ever gotten before. I'm just happy that they actually had the courage to tell this Batman story instead of turning it into a Hollywood blockbuster like so many other films before it. Major props to the director, Matt Reeves. I saw an article that he was included in, and he stated that his overall goal in this film was to beat The Dark Knight in box office revenue and critique and just in sales overall in general. And I tell you what, in my opinion, he got close. I don't think any other Batman film has gotten close to The Dark Knight other than what we have here. This was an amazing movie. This was an amazing story. And I hope that we eventually see a sequel to this franchise. To be completely honest, I would like for this to just be a standalone Batman story. I really don't want to see the Justice League interfere in this world. I want it to be strictly Batman and just the rogue gallery of Batman characters only. I think as soon as you try to integrate other DC characters into a Batman story like this, it's no longer about Batman, and that's when it would start to get hurt. So if you want this continued success, take my advice, keep it about Batman, maybe introduce a Robin into this rogue of movies, and like what they did with The Dark Knight until the very end. I wouldn't mind seeing a Nightwing Robin, Jason Todd, Red Hood, Barbara Gordon, and the other rogue gallery of characters. I would love for this to be the true Batman trilogy of movies that really delves deep into the so many epic Batman stories that we have never seen a live action version of on the silver screen. And with that, I think we will begin our closeout, man. So if I were to do a ranking for the Batman, I would put it second. The only other movie that I still hold dear to my heart would be the Heath Ledger performance of the Joker in The Dark Knight. I think that is still the pinnacle of all Batman mythos in all of existence, but that is not to say that it failed in any kind of way possible. This is a must-have, this is a must-see, this is a must-own for any DC or Batman fan that is breathing air currently. Take my word for it, I promise you. So what I want to know now, of course, is your thoughts, your comments, your concerns. Did you enjoy this movie? Did you hate this movie? Did you think it was boring? Did you think it was too long? What's one portion of the movie that you would have changed or fixed? Post it in the comments below. Let's have a long-winded discussion about it. I want to talk. Let's do it, man. Please, let's talk about it. If you like the video, hit that like button. You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. We do reviews on all of the blockbuster movies that DC, Marvel, Disney is coming out with in 2022. If you're a movie buff, make sure you get subscribed because I will be reviewing all of them. You can follow me at youtube.com/markjack79. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And as always, my friends, I love you. Thank you for the support, especially if you made it all the way to the end of this long review. I love doing this. YouTube has afforded me the opportunity to make a little extra cheddar to do the thing that I have always loved. And I can never be more grateful for having the opportunity to talk to you guys. It's amazing. All right. I will see y'all on the next one. As always, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.